Hey, folks, welcome back to the Land Fixer podcast. I'm your host, Logan Swanson. As usual, we're here to talk all things land. We have our wonderful guest, the man with two first names, Nicholas Nick. How are you doing today?
I'm great. I'm great. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Folks, if you need to buy land or list land, go to primelandexchange.com. That's our listing service. If you need help funding any of your land flips, subdivisions, entitlements, etc., go to landpartnerfunding.com. We will be able to help you out there. And if you want to reach me directly, I'm always happy to chat. I'm always happy to partner with folks, JV on projects, whatever you might want to do. I'm game. Reach out to me at thelandfixer@gmail.com. And that brings us to our guest. Nick, tell us about yourself.
Yeah, what's up, guys? My name's Nicholas Nick. I know that's weird. I'm Greek. That's why I've got the same name twice. And I own a company called leadminingpros.com. All right, we've been open for about 8 years now. We're absolutely crushing it. And what I really specialize in that makes us really different is two main things. I pull lists, I skip trace them, I cold call them, and I text message them. Is what I do in a whole. But what makes us unique is I have American cold callers that live right here in the United States, which is primo for land. We've learned, and I've tested both American and foreign. An American will get 2 to 4 times more leads dialing on land than a foreign caller will. And so that's why the Americans really shine there. The other thing that's special about us is no contracts, no commitments, no setup fees. So every purchase is just a single one-off purchase. So it's really been a great journey. 8 years in, we did over 1.5 million in sales last year, and this year's off to the races.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Well, I do want to break down your services from the beginning.
Yeah.
But first, there's been a lot of new legislation and things going on. So I was wondering, obviously, you're not an attorney. Don't take this as legal advice, but maybe you can tell us kind of the state of the legalities behind cold calling, text
What's changed?
messaging, et cetera. Yeah.
Yeah, so there's a couple things like you say. I'm definitely not an attorney. I'm gonna cover a couple things. One is what I think the changes are, and two, ways you can protect yourself. Right? Liability is a double-edged sword. Liability is also making sure you're protected, not just going out there and not being careless, but making sure you're not making mistakes either. Okay, so the first thing is the TCPA laws. So the biggest change on cold calling was the phrase robodials. Okay. Now, robodialing has always been illegal. Trump did that in his last presidency. What robodialing means is that there's not a human behind the phone. That's what robodialing means. And in this newest update, AI was officially named a robodialer. So anyone dealing with AI, it's just as illegal as doing RVM. And let's talk about RVM real quick. RVM became illegal because it's technically a robodial. It's only a voicemail recording. So first RVM was illegal just in Florida. Now it's illegal nationwide. People still do it. I'm not saying do it or don't do it, but it is technically a robodial because there's not a human behind each ring. Okay. Now, there was some talk about triple line dialers and multi line dialers also not being under those laws. Now, I reached out to my cold calling provider. Okay. And I was like, hey, talk to me. Right. Are we out of business on January 27th? It's like, no, we're all clear. We're in the clear. We've got a signed letter. We're completely compliant. Okay. And so cold calling really hasn't changed much at all. Okay. Now let's move to text messaging. Now, the biggest thing with text messaging and all things, we'll talk about two things in one, is what they're calling one-to-one consent. Okay. Now, what that means is a lot of these services out there, especially PPL and PPC, sell the same lead to multiple people. Okay.
And
So
what is PPL and PPC?
thank you. Appreciate that. PPL is pay per lead. It's this very common thing that you'll see now. It doesn't really exist for land. It's mainly houses.
Hmm.
But you go on a website, there's all these house leads. They're marked up depending on the volume in your market. And then you can look at the lead, preview it, and then buy the lead anywhere between $200 and $700 kind of thing. But you get a preview. PPC is pay per click, and it's often related to a term of using Google ads. So when someone types in, I want to sell my house, that your website pops up.
Hmm.
Now, PPC is also very expensive depending on your market. But what some of these companies do that resell these leads is they get 20 leads in Atlanta and they give them to everyone that has them in Atlanta. So the one-to-one consent protects that seller. That one seller can no longer legally, doesn't mean it's not going to happen, but it can no longer legally receive 5 different people to call that lead. Okay. So that's one of the huge changes that was made. So,
I mean,
oh,
I was
one
actually
second.
about to ask you that.
So
yeah.
PPL and PPC, they're going to really take a hit because what has to happen now is the only way you can legally follow up with them is if it's in the script that they say multiple people may be calling you. Do we have your consent to make that happen? So the one-to-one consent that was done for text messaging and all leads is meant to hinder companies that sell that same lead to multiple people. And for the record, we don't do that. Every customer that we have, we pull the list for them. That's your list. And we call and text only for you. Even if there's a name on our company that pops up on someone else's list, if you get a lead and we get cussed out on this other client, the client that gets cussed out does not get your lead, no matter what. So we have exclusivity with all of our leads. So the one-to-one consent is meant to protect the companies that are a little unethical and just reselling or re-giving out the same lead to everyone. So those are my interpretations, and they're accurate, but those are my interpretations of the TCPA and the new laws.
Sweet. Yeah. And that's really important. You kind of mentioned there's other people that operate in this space of cold calling and text messaging as a service. And it's very important to determine that they are compliant, right? Because say I'm utilizing your service,
right?
And, there's consequences, right? So some of these consequences are legal action, lawsuits, fines. I mean, some of them are up to like 10 grand an occurrence for, right. Yeah. So if someone's working with you, and that lawsuit's filed, it's not you're not sued, right? It's whoever
yeah,
you
in
hired
most cases, you. Yeah, right. In most cases, you're right. And I would love to take a minute to tell people how to protect themselves additionally.
Yeah, go into it, please.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have some of this stuff in my courses that we have online. I'll give you a link that you can give. They're all free, all my courses. I go a little deeper there, but protection is everything. So I'll tell you guys a couple things. One, we've been in business for 8 years. No one's ever been threatened to be sued from our cold callers or from our text messaging. Okay. Now we did have one blip where someone said, now I know your company and now I can sue you guys. They still didn't get sued. But what happened was that customer had insisted that we put their company name in the script. Okay. So let's talk about liability. A lot of people don't know how to protect themselves. So whenever this happened, and because they insisted, because we don't put it in anyone's script, they're like, no, my brand is important. And I was like, no offense to anyone watching, your brand is not talking anyone into selling their house or their land, right? So it's like saying, oh, I'm with landbuilders.com. Oh, I've been dying to sell to you. Oh, I wasn't going to sell before, but now I know you're with these guys. So your name isn't helping. Okay. So that's the first thing I'll say. So your business name should never be mentioned. Okay. If you are going to mention a name, say something that sounds like your business name. A lot of people call that a DBA, and that's doing business as. Okay. What we tell clients when they ask us, who do we work for? We say we're just private buyers in the area. Okay. We want to give mom and pop vibes. We don't want to give corporate ownership vibes. And I know sometimes as a business owner, we want to be like, yeah, we're the real deal, right? But no, hey, we're a small operation. Me and my wife buy properties. It's just us two, right? Keeping it vague. So number one, no business name. Okay. Number two, don't go giving your first and last name out to everybody. Okay. Right. There's no sense in doing that. Hey, this is Tyler. How's it going? Let me chat with you, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to divulge everything. Okay. I know that we might be thinking it helps, but it doesn't help. Okay. The next piece, never ever call sellers from a phone number that can be Googled and they could find you. Okay. So for example, I have my business phone number. I would never call seller lead. They Google my business phone number, my business will pop up. Right. So if your business pops up, guess what? They know where to send the legal paperwork to. So this whole thing is meant to protect you, right? Now, I don't mean to say we're out here to do illegal things and then not get caught doing it, but we do not want to have additional exposed liability out there. And if they can't find you, they can't hurt you. And anyone could sue you for anything.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people like, and I'll touch on one last thing real quick. And that is, unless you got some questions for me real quick, because I just covered a lot.
No, you're doing great. I was about to say the same thing. I was like, people don't really need standing to sue you. People can just sue you because they feel like suing you, and it will still be a huge headache. You still have to go show up in that courtroom. You still have to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah. You could win, and you
Mhm.
probably will win. And that's what I want to talk about real quick. So I want to talk about a couple of things. Number one is aggressive people threatening to sue you. Okay. I'm going to take you. Like, the more aggressive they are, first of all, they're just scaring you. If they actually had a case, they would laugh and smile and hang up the phone and go to their attorney friend and file the lawsuit. But what they're actually doing is they're extorting you. Okay. And they're actually saying, I'm going to sue you if you do this, or you can pay me $2,000. You hear that all the time, settling. Okay. Well, let me explain that real quick. The DNC, you can look this up right now. The DNC, this is going to blow some people's mind, I think. The DNC, for calling someone on the DNC, you
Do
cannot
not
be.
call list, right? That's the do
Yeah,
not call
thank you.
list. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I've been in the industry for too long. Thank you, Logan. But if you call someone on the DNC, they cannot sue you. Okay. Now, if you look up the laws on the DNC, what it says is they can report you to the government, and the government fines you. Okay. That's different. So what happens is people, they don't know that. So they go, I'm going to sue you for $10,000. Right. Well, no, actually, you can't. Okay. You can get me fined for $10,000. Yes, I'm sure that that could happen. Okay. But you cannot sue me. And they try to get you to settle with them because they can't sue you. So I just want to share that it's not, the do not call list is not a right to sue entrepreneurs that are outreaching to you. They're supposed to tell the government, and the government then fines you or takes it into their own hands. So I just want to clear that up too, because a lot of people think people are getting sued for calling the DNC. No, they're getting fined from the government, or they're caving into a threatening seller who has scared them into paying them. It's one of those two things. So I know we're kind of starting this call a little heavy, but I wanted to give that clarity.
That's what I was just thinking. I was like, man, we're
Yeah.
scare everybody off. They're already they're hitting stop.
I know. We've done too much.
Well, that's great. I think we've covered a good portion there. Well, let's move to first. Let's just start at the beginning, right? One of the biggest questions that I get. I'm not a coach. I don't do guru training or anything like that. But I've coached a lot of people. I help people all the time. And the most common question you get is like, how do you select a county? How do you put a list together? And you said you provide lists. So tell us, what service do you use, and are there any tips and tricks that y'all utilize to provide high quality lists?
Yeah. So we use Data Tree for land, which you guys might know is
Hmm.
definitely the best out there. Now, recently, I've split tested almost everything at the moment. Okay. And I've had Land Vision, I've had Data Tree, I've tried PropStream, PropWire, all those. Okay. And Data Tree every time has the most records available. Okay. Which in land is really important. So, first, the source you get your list from. So, if I start at PropStream and they only have 500 records in my market, and then that's all I have, and then Data Tree has 3,500, that's 7 times more of the opportunity for me to actually do something, right? And so the first thing is the source. So we use Data Tree for everything land, and it works extremely good. It gets the most records back for each client.
And just so, because some folks might not even know this much, so DataTree is a list aggregation service, right? So they're the middlemen that are going. Do they speak directly to counties to get information? Do you know kind of how their business
Yes.
works? I roughly know, but I could use
Yeah.
some
So
information here.
Data Tree is owned by First American.
Hmm.
Do you know First American? So First
Title company.
American is the number one title company in the United States. They're actually an $8 billion a year company. Okay. They even recently bought, what's it called? They bought Connected Investors. is what they bought. So I don't know if you've ever heard of that company. They
Mm.
actually bought that company for like $80 million. Okay. So so they own all the data. They see every property that sells, they have all of it. So that's why, so they have this in because they're this huge title company that's closing deals all over America. And then they basically then sell that data, but it's very premium. I pay them about $30,000 a year. So the perk of using a service like mine is I have to get locked into these annual commitments to get these products to you guys, and you guys don't have to do that. Data tree, it goes up to 12 cents per record if you get it yourself, or you have to buy it in huge bundles to drive it down.
Yeah.
I proactively buy it in huge bundles, drive the price down, and then I sell it to my clients for cheaper than they could even go get it for themselves. And that's one of the perks of using somebody like me.
Right. And yet data tree, if folks haven't used it, also gives you the ability to do zoning, out of state owners only, filter for the do not call list, all that sort of stuff that you might want to sort out top of funnel so you're not paying for leads that you wouldn't want to,
Right.
call or get in
Get charged for.
contact with.
Yeah.
And then after you get a list all secured and put together, and I guess that's as simple as, and I have used your service, so I am familiar, but they effectively just say, okay, what county, what acreage, and then they tell you how many records there are, anything else you want to sort by, so y'all do it for it. It's not like you have to go in and spend a lot of time. They'll help you
To
through it.
figure anything out. Yeah. And I'll
Right.
tell you, these softwares, it's not as much fun as you think to navigate um, and get in there and get all your filters right. We do the zoning for you. We make sure that they don't have improvements. So
Mhm.
we do land with zero improvements. Now, if you don't know what that means, an improvement could be like a shack or a shed or a house. So we go out of our way to make sure it's still vacant, or at least to the best of our filters
Yeah.
allow us to. So we do all those tricks for you, so you don't have to learn the hard way. We've already figured it out.
Right. Yeah. And that's, if you're starting out, I'm doing, I forgot to plug it. I was going to say, so I'm doing a 4-hour seminar next month here in Arlington, Texas, or outside of Dallas. But one of the things that I'm going to be talking about is this process. And when you're a newcomer and you don't have a lot of experience, like this is the way to go. Go work with an expert, a service that will at least give you the opportunity to start, right? Because a lot of people, they never get past building a list when they're
Right.
getting into investing, and they also are willing to pay so in your little you have those videos on how to do land investing pretty much, like
Yeah,
you have
that's
a
right.
free course, right?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of people do the opposite. They're like, I'm going to go pay 10, 20. I mean, I've talked to people who have paid $50,000 for real estate investing coaching and training and one-on-one hand holding, who never sent a piece of mail, who never bought a piece of property, who never picked up a phone one time. And they'd come to me and I'd be like, well, you have to do it. You just have to start. So working with a service like yours, where you're like, okay, let's just put a list together. It's a little hand holding, and by having that guidance, like you don't need to spend a bunch of money to learn how to invest in land. You just need to go work with people who are actually doing it. And a service like yours is great for that. But moving on from kind of list building, the next mysterious term that people are going to run into is skip tracing, right? So I go into skip tracing, and I'm also curious if you have some, because I've been overwhelmed by getting skip tracing reports back, and there's like 17 phone numbers. So maybe you can give us some thoughts on like how skip tracing works, but also like how to verify information or use the best information without wasting time.
No, I love that. I love that. Yeah, this is going to be a great call. Your questions are killer, and I've got all the answers. This is what we do every day, right? So our skip tracing gets 6 cell phone numbers and 6 landlines. Okay, it's very accurate. We also get the right person on the phone over 80% of the time when we call the first number. Okay, so here's my logic. Here's my logic. I only ever call that first number. That's it.
Mm,
If I can get the right person 80% of the time on that number, why would I spend any time on a 20% or less chance, right? I'm kind of a math nerd. So to me, like, what do they say? If you can hire out someone at 80% of your efficiency, you're good, right?
yeah.
And I think that's the same exact thing. Why spend double the effort for less than 20%? Right? It doesn't really make sense. And the other thing I've learned is you're better off calling one number 3 times than calling 3 different numbers once.
Mm,
So if you are going to do it that way, you're losing out on that could be a bad time for them. Maybe they're busy. The average contact rate's only like 5 to 7%. right? So it's like no matter what, you're going to miss 92% of people. So don't move on to the next number always if you track your metrics. I track my metrics. I actually know how accurate each number is.
Hmm.
So that would be my rule of thumb. And then also be wary of some skip tracing companies. So we dial everyone's data. We don't make our clients use our data. And our most complaints come from batch and prop stream. Okay. And let me tell you why that is. So batch actually tells you what they're doing.
And
They
this
are
is
batch.
skip tracing services,
That's
batch and
right.
prop stream.
That's right. Yeah. So using their skip tracing services. So batch, it's literally called batch skip tracing. And what they do is they batch their data too. So I'll give you an example. Anytime someone submits a list to us, we upload it to the skip tracer. It's all fresh data every time. What some of these really big companies do is they buy data once and they buy all of it. And then
Hmm.
they resell this old data over and over and over again. So some of these competitors, that's why you have to watch your numbers and your accuracy rates. Some of these people out there, they're trying to save money and they bought a list for probably $300,000 at the beginning of the year. And then they keep that for however many years they want until they feel like updating it. So skip tracing is important. A service like mine, we upload it every time. I remember one time we got a customer and he was a real estate investor that we cold called. And he said, I've only owned this property for 10 days. How the fuck did you get my number? Okay. And then I told him, and he goes, well, I'm going to hire you because I'm so impressed. Because if you could find me like that, then I could find you. So it's really important that you find someone, if you do whatever company you do use, that they upload it fresh and that they don't just have a query of numbers that they're pulling from the past.
Yeah, that's big. And that's actually one of the questions I was going to get to. I'm just going to take a break and ask it here. But so you're, very good at getting new clients. You're kind of all over the podcasts, and to this day, I still see your ads in my Facebook feed all the time. And you just mentioned that you'll cold call for clients, which I think is an obvious solution. You just have one person in there cold calling new clients,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but in our day and age, a lot of investors are using multi-touch acquisition marketing systems. So it'll be like, all right, I'm going to get a list and then I'm going to call that list. And everybody who answers and says, screw off, I don't want to hear from you ever again, they just remove them. Or people that they can't get a hold of, they'll start calling that list. And then from people that they weren't able to have positive engagement with on the phone, then they'll send letters or they'll do text messaging campaigns or anything like that.
Okay.
So do you have any thoughts on that, sort of like, since we're in more of a competitive atmosphere, do you think it's better or more efficient to do multi-touch acquisition marketing, or do you think it's more just like call them 10 times to get in front of them?
Well, yeah. So our strategy is to call and text when we do it. So what I've seen is this: you do not want to call someone more than three times, at least not in a short window. Again, I see the numbers. The first call through, we get the most leads. The second call through, sometimes we can get the same amount of leads. The third call through, massive dip. After that, we're not getting shit. Okay. So the first thing I would do is I would only call a max of three times in that month. Okay. Then give it a whole month to cool down.
Hmm.
Okay. A whole month. Now, what we do is we then text everyone. So we call everyone three times and we text them. And that text is that extra jab. And what I call it no stone unturned. Right. So when my clients hire me, I don't want them being like, oh, I don't know. Did he do this? We do it all to everyone. We're pounding that list. You can literally sleep easy at night and go, oh, Nick's got it. And that is exactly what I want. And I think that's what multi-touch does for us. But what I wouldn't do is I wouldn't do the sequence shit. Okay. You know, we don't do a sequence at lead mining. We call everyone two to three times and we text everyone. Okay. We don't call, look at who answered, look at who didn't, look at who's not interested, look at who was, and then only text. That makes that process way more daunting. And what, you're going to get like one duplicate lead and you're going to spend 2 hours scrubbing people off of a list. So in my opinion, you call everyone, you text everyone. And then you know what else happens? If you do get a duplicate, guess what? You go off whichever one gave you the better answer, right?
Yeah.
So if you get a duplicate, you still win. So that's my strategy. I would drop the sequence and I would make sure you do all of it to everybody.
Awesome. Well, let's get into scripting a little
Yeah,
bit,
yeah,
right? So you have a lot of people making a lot of calls.
yeah.
I could actually pick your mind a lot on that, on just how you keep, I mean, the idea of running a bunch of phone callers and keeping
It's
them
crazy.
motivated and excited is, I'm sure, a big challenge. And, um, in the age of AI, we can't use AI robo dialers right now, but you can use AI to write prompts and scripts and things like that, or whatever. So, do you have any thoughts or ideas on how to write an ideal script for something like this or for cold
So
calling?
honestly, what I've learned is everything's about being direct as possible. You know, the number one thing clients will be like, "Can I submit a script to you?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And it's like this wordy ass. I tell you, no one cares. No one cares, right? So here's our script. Hi there. I'm reaching out about the owner of the 3 acre property in Galveston, Texas. Yeah, that's me. Oh, great. Well, my name's Nicholas, and I was wondering, have you ever considered selling before? Okay. Both of those questions, they're right to the point. Now, what I would say is talk slowly, right? Don't rush through it. Make sure they're understanding what you're saying, right? They might just start saying no just because they don't care. But
Hmm.
then if you speak slowly, they could be like, "What? Wait, what? Yeah, that fucking piece of land I've owned for the last 10 years that I'm tired of. Yeah, actually, I do want to sell it." So, in my opinion, it's about being direct as possible. It's about being friendly. And it's about getting to the point and speaking slowly. Okay. You want them to digest what you're saying. And then if you want, I'll finish my script so everybody
Yeah,
could
go
hear.
ahead. Yeah.
That's my intro. Yeah. How much you want to offer? Oh, well, we don't normally make an offer until we find out that you're interested, but I would love to ask you some questions about the property. Yeah. So is there legal road access on the property? Okay. And is it wooded or is it cleared? All right. And is there any utilities at all? Oh, and what was your plan when you originally bought the property? And why are you considering selling? And is there a better phone number for you? Is there a good email address for you so we could send an offer when we're interested? And all right, I think I got everything that I need. I'm going to get this over to my partner Logan. He's going to give you a call, and in the next 24 hours. Okay, is what we say to them.
Easy.
Now, one thing I don't say is I don't ask them how much they want for their property.
Yep. Yeah, because you don't
And
want to anchor that for your. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. And let me tell you, it's different from land and houses. Houses has Zillow. So anyone can go and type in their address in Zillow and at least gives them a number. There's nowhere to do that for land.
Hmm.
So if they don't know what it's worth and you don't know what it's worth, why the hell would you ask them? Right? You're forced, like you perfect word, anchor. The first price. Now we have to work down from 150,000. You'd rather work up from 40,000 than
Hmm.
work down from 150, right? So never, ever, ever ask them how much they want for their property. And you know what else? Never, ever tell them what you're willing to pay for it. One strategy I have is, yeah, I'll send you the offer. I'll get you an official offer out to you. Well, how much? I don't know how much yet. I got to do some more research. But let me get this official offer out to you. And what that does is the suspense gives them emotional buy-in. I actually have a whole strategy where I teach people how to close deals using this strategy. It's in my
Hmm.
free courses. But we want to build suspense. If we tell them a low offer, guess what? They know to never answer our phone call ever again. They already know what we're going to say. They already know our range. But if we get them to like us a little bit more and we get them to think about us and have emotional buy in, when they finally see that offer on the contract or on the letter of intent, it hits them way softer than on the first phone call.
Hmm. Yeah, that's great. And then when your clients are getting those leads, with a text message, call, they get them, and then what? I guess they kind of have something to understand or to go off of when they reach out to the
The
potential
leads.
seller.
That's
Yeah.
right. So I really take a lot of pride in our notes, right? The notes are everything. So on our cold call, all the questions we ask, you see, all the answer they gave, you see, and then I even have a spot for what I call rapport notes, like what else happened that wasn't in those questions, right? For the text messaging, I just send you the whole transcript. Hey, here's everything that was said. Take a look for yourself, right? So you're completely in the know. I also set you guys up where the text messages I provide the name, the phone number, and the acreage or the address of the property. So you kind of have like a little synopsis, and then you have the conversation too as well. So then you guys take those notes. And then even in my courses, I have scripts and everything I give you guys. So I tell you what to say so you know what to say to the leads whenever you call them back.
Badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like to anything else you want to cover as far as your service directly? I do have a couple questions that are kind of like get a look behind the scenes sort of thing.
Yeah. No, go for it. Other than that, we knock out texting. It's just all done for you.
Hmm.
It's really simple. We don't have a reply stop to opt out. We've been grandfathered in to our A2P 10 DLC. So our texting is highly effective. But that was the only thing that we really didn't touch on. And it's really simple,
Hmm.
So yeah, so go ahead and hit me with what you got.
Cool. So, we obviously we have a land business, but we also have land services, which kind of costs makes us business owners outside of just the real estate realm. And what we're kind of seeing is, all these different ways that people are optimizing systems and setting goals on their calendars and things of that nature. So I'm curious, do you have one, in this age of AI, are you using any AI systems in your company? Are you planning for anything like that?
You know, honestly, my brain is so damn full, dude. Like I wish I had a brain for AI, you know. And I might write an ad or write an email and ask AI to make it better.
Hmm.
But, I'm not really doing anything ninja. And it's kind of saved me, I guess, because I'm glad I didn't dive into AI cold callers, when that came out, because I'd be at all systems halt right now if I
Yep.
did. Um, and I believe in it. As I'm not, I believe in all AI. I don't have the biggest use for it in my business yet. And with me, I'm so good at managing employees that I don't have a need for AI to take over, right? At the moment. Like I'm so good at getting my customer service to be great customer service. I don't know if I need to have an AI customer service agent because I'd rather actually pay someone in the Philippines and change their life rather than maybe pay a $20 billion company a little bit more to have someone on the phone. So I'm so good at the management part. I haven't had it replace any of my employees yet. It might be coming, but I'm really behind. Like when TikTok came out, like I never got on TikTok. It's like when these new things come out, I'm kind of capped a little bit.
Yeah, I think there's I'm with you in a lot of ways. I tend like, for example, when text messaging kind of rolled through the land investing space, everybody went and got launch control and all these different
Right.
systems and sunk. They
Right.
they increased their costs per month by like $1,000 to two thousand
Yeah.
dollars to
Right.
get, and then within like 6 months, people were like, "Oh, it's too expensive. I can't do it anymore." And I dodged all of that. So that's actually a good plug for your services. I don't want to do this. I'll pay somebody who knows how to do it better, and it'll probably save me money.
Yeah.
And if you're working with the right company, it should make you money and save you money at the same time.
Yeah.
So I
I
definitely
love
think
that.
that's. But anyways, so outside of that, do you have anything new, exciting, or anything on the horizons that you wanted to divulge live on a podcast? I guess not
I
live, but
I just launched this month full-time foreign cold callers, which is cool for us. It's actually been a pretty big hit so far, and it's for people. I don't want to say like on a smaller budget because my packages are so large for the foreign because they're full-time. Um, but it's like so I have my Americans, and then the Americans are more expensive naturally, and then I have my foreign callers, and they're like a third of the price. So it's really cool. What this is allowing people to do is to make a much larger impact in like saturated markets. Like let's say you're doing land in Miami, Orlando, Dallas, or Houston, right? Even in those markets, land is tough because they're such big cities, right? Well, you could put in someone like the foreign cold caller at like a third of the price, like I was mentioning, and then still get great results because the volume is so high. So I would just say our foreign callers are killing it right now. I'm really scared to have foreign callers on the team. So I'm actually training them all myself. I'm not even normally I have a trainer on my team and she's awesome, but I have her train the Americans, but Americans are easier to train, right?
hmm
I'm actually taking the foreign callers on myself. and I'm working with them. And we have all inclusive packages starting at like $1,400 where we do all the work. And it's really great. And you could compare some of that stuff to like land callers. They kind of have the same model, or supercharged offers where they offer all the stuff. And so I kind of offering the same thing except with no commitments, which
Hmm.
is really cool.
Yeah, and where do you what inspired the naming of your packages? You have like the shotgun, the bazooka, and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. So my packages are I have the shotgun bazooka 10-week Titan.
Hmm.
Um, I have one called the Napalm Strike and the Nuclear Strike. And I'm just a big video game nerd, if I could be honest. And I remember one time I took a call from a customer and he said, Nick, and he wasn't lying. He gave me $5,000. Nick, I need two nuclear strikes, one napalm strike, and two bazookas. And I just replied and said, well, let's blow some shit up then. And, that just killed me, right? And I like to be creative. I like to be empowering. I used to be a restaurant manager. We didn't go into
Same.
my past very much, but yeah. And so I used to be a restaurant manager for 13 years. So keeping it light and keeping it fun and naming things is something that's really important to me. I want people to have a full experience and not just have buy the $5,000 package, but let's put a fun name on. I even have icons now
Yeah.
for each of them. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's fun. Yeah, we didn't get too much into your history. I saw that you posted on Facebook the other day a photo back from your restaurant manager. That's exactly what I thought. I was a restaurant manager for years and got
Yeah.
into construction and whatnot for a while.
Yeah.
Um, well, cool. I think we're probably at about a good stopping point here. Let's remind everybody how they can reach out to you if they wanted to work with you.
Absolutely. Yeah. You guys can check out leadminingpros.com. You could also call my cell phone number. I'll give it to you right now, 727-877-8772. I know that sounds crazy. I just gave that out. But it's on my website anyways, right? And I welcome all calls. One thing a lot of people don't know about me is I don't care if you just have questions about your own business or if you want to hire my service. I'm a plethora of information. We've grown as big as we have because I have those principles. So feel free to give me a shout if you have questions or concerns. You could even talk to me about a different purchase you're about to make. I've been around for 12 years, so I know all the guys and
Hmm.
I can even guide you there. But yeah, that's how you can find me. Feel free to either book a call or call me directly or go do some shopping online. I have a tab at the top that says pricing. And next to that, I have my free courses and my free weekly group coaching. So all that's free. You don't even have to make a purchase to get access to it.
Badass. Yeah, I was impressed. Definitely when I was trying out your service, I was like, oh, you answered. I get the
Yeah.
same thing when people want to do marketing and things like that with me. I'm like, I'll text you my cell, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
So
It's a
that's
good, it's a
cool.
good feeling, and it's nice to know that another CEO has your back, right? I'm not sticking an employee on the phone or a sales guy who doesn't give a shit. Like no one gives more of it. I always joke and I say the only person that wants you to be successful more than you is me. Because if you're not successful, I'm going to lose a customer, right? And so I fight for that.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of a funny thing. A lot of people get into real estate or even just business ownership, and their whole thought is like, I'm going to delegate away until I'm not doing anything.
Right.
And there's a part of me that got caught up in that when I first like went on my own. I was like, all right, delegate, automate, systematize, da, 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 da. Then I got to a point where I was like, I like talking to like the whole reason I like relationships. I like talking to people. I like knowing people.
Yeah.
My wife and I joke like I have a really valuable cell phone because just all the people that are in my phone that I've worked with or talked to or whatever. Um, and how else do you establish those relationships other than talking to people? And you
Right.
might be talking to someone who's just starting who blows up. They could be your biggest client, going
Yeah.
nothing to the biggest client. And
Yeah.
and their success could rely on your initial phone call. It's
Yeah.
just I don't know. I think it's fascinating. And I
It's
think that's
worth
the
it.
last thing people should give up is
Yeah.
establishing real connections with other people.
And what I would say, I like that. And what I would say too is, so I used to be a restaurant manager, right? You did too. And what we learn is if we're at the right place at the right time, it feels like we're everywhere. Okay. So what I would even challenge everyone watching is where could you be in your business that makes people think you're everywhere? People like, Nick, oh my God, how did you know? How did you know? Well, when a purchase comes in, I see the name. When a text comes in, I see who's text. Doesn't mean I reply to it, right? But I'm so in the know that nothing sneaks past me. And the other tip I'll give is how do we know what to delegate? Okay, so here's something I did. We'll leave this as our last nugget for everybody. I have 30 employees, just so everyone knows, and it gets really fucking crazy, really fucking fast. Okay, that's a lot of people. I always joke and say it's really hard cracking 30 whips at the same exact time, you know. But one thing I did when I want to replace myself, and I do this for 2 weeks, I keep a notepad next to my workstation, and then we don't know how much we do every day, okay, as business owners. Like we do everything
Yeah.
and we don't know that. So in this notepad, every time I do something new, I write it down and I write it down and I write it down. At the end of 2 weeks, I had 30 items that I did. Then I went over those items and I said, which one of these or which ones of these have to be me? Have to, right? Really high level thinker stuff. And I select those first. Everything else, higher.
Yeah.
Right. And I would just say, like you said, don't give away the shit that makes you money. Don't give away the high acquisitions. When people say they have a foreign person doing their acquisitions, I'm like, what? What are you talking about? I have one of my favorite sayings is that $3 an hour employee is costing you $50,000 a month.
Yeah.
Right. It's like you think you're saving with it. And you're not. So don't give away the what makes you money. Give away the shit you don't want to do that doesn't make you money.
Right. Yeah. And I think, my thought on that is also don't give away the thing that you enjoy. Um, I've talked to people like I even got bitter. I got bitter about my company at times because I only did drudgery, and the stuff that I really enjoyed that maybe wasn't even making me money. I was giving to somebody else, and it just made me lose passion and interest in it. So,
Yeah.
well, cool, folks. Thank you so much, Nicholas. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Folks, if you need to buy or list your land, go to primelandexchange.com. Land partner funding for all of your land funding needs. And if you want to reach out to me, you can get to me with the email address, thelandfixer@gmail.com, and I will reply promptly. Nicholas, thank you again. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, brother. Great job today.